In this video we'll be looking at Windows Whistler build 2223. This is one of the earliest Whistler builds that we know about. It's not the earliest one, and in fact there is actually a little bit of debate as to which build is the earliest, because there is one build known as build 2202. It's not quite sure, however, whether that build is just a post RTM Windows 2000 build, or whether it's actually an alpha Windows Whistler build or Windows XP build. There's a little bit of debate about that. I'm not actually going to do a video on that one because it's very similar to Windows 2000. There's not really much difference at all. However, I am going to show some screenshots shortly of that build, and one more build after it, which is build 2211. So just as setup is beginning, I've got this screen that's just appeared saying setup has detected that you're about to install an evaluation version of Windows 2000, which contains a time limited expiration for evaluation purposes only. Now, while this part of setup finishes, I'm going to show you some screenshots from the two earlier builds that I mentioned of Whistler, just to highlight some of the main differences or main interesting features that you can find in them, although they're not really very different to Windows 2000. But have a quick look at these screenshots anyway, and I will highlight some of the things that you need to look at. The boot screen, as you can see, is the same as Windows 2000's boot screen. You wouldn't really expect the boot screen to be different at this stage. It's far too early in development for that sort of thing to be a priority. And as I said, actually the operating system itself still looks like Windows 2000 as well. There's very little difference actually between them. But there are a few things we can have a look at, so we will. So setup is now finished and it's going to restart, so I'll let it do that. Not sure what this is. Okay, never mind. So here we go, Windows Whistler Professional is how it identifies itself. And currently this string of text is the only indication that this is not Windows 2000. So here we are at the desktop. I've put the resolution up now so it's a little bit better and easier to see. The mouse is a little bit sluggish, unfortunately, because virtual PC editions don't install with this build of Whistler. They're not compatible, unfortunately. So let's have a quick look around. So this is a new icon, which is not the same as the one in Windows 2000. Interestingly, this build in many places calls itself some variant of Whistler 2001, which alludes to the fact that Microsoft were possibly thinking about naming this operating system Windows 2001, which would make sense because up until this point that's how they'd named their operating systems, apart from Windows Me, Windows Millennium Edition. But even still, that's still named after a time period, the Millennium, so I think that counts as being named after a time period. Now, this control panel style is a little bit like the one in Windows Me, where it's got categories. These backgrounds are also from Windows Me and 2000, I believe. Here are the screensavers. Let's have a look at the Windows logo screensaver. So there you go, codename Whistler 2001. Now, as of yet, there are no visual styles, so the watercolor theme, which does turn up eventually, and eventually gets replaced with the lunar theme in the RTM version, is not actually in existence at this point. There are no visual styles. There's no visual style engine or service. So this is very much like Windows 2000 in that respect. So let's view all control panel options and go to users and passwords. Now apparently there is a logon screen, like the one in Neptune, a welcome screen. I'm not quite sure how to activate that though. Actually, just talking about the watercolour theme, you can actually see a tiny bit of the watercolour style if you look at the detail on this taskbar button. It's looks like it's kind of indented, which is a bit like what the watercolour theme looks like, a bit flat, if that makes sense. I believe this option, group items, is new, and that ended up in XP in the end. That's new here. This thing about personalised notifications, which is the same kind of thing, like in XP where you can hide them, or have them always displayed. This page intentionally blank for now, okay. So this may be a hint at this point of what is to come, with obviously the new start menu, which hasn't appeared yet, but it will soon. Let's have a quick look in Explorer. So again, it's like Windows 2000 Explorer. All the sounds, by the way, are the Windows 2000 sounds as well. Here's the Windows folder, nothing remarkable there. Let's have a look at WinVer. So here you go, WinVer. It's still showing Windows 2000 as the logo, but notice the version number is now 5.1, in line with what XP's would be. Hot pluggable devices. Odd name, but I'm sure you recognise the dialogue. Right, let's close that. Now, another thing about this build, at this point there is still no Windows product activation either, so you'll notice that it didn't ask me for a serial number, it hasn't asked me to activate anything, that doesn't exist at this point either. So visual styles don't exist, neither does product activation at this point, so it's very much like Windows 2000 in that respect. If I log off, does that take me to the logon screen that I've been led to believe is in this build? No, it just logs me back on again. Anyway, right, there's one more thing that I would like to show you. Click this. We've got this new XP style dialog box, which is different to the one in Windows 2000. If you remember, in Windows 2000 before that, it used to be the box was slightly bigger and you had a drop down menu. You had to click and choose how you wanted to shut down your computer. and then press OK, but now we just have these buttons, so turn off, restart and cancel. I'm going to turn off, because really that's all there is to this build. There's nothing really else to look at. So in the next video we'll have a look at another early build, build 2250, and we'll see what progress has been made by that point. So I will see you then.